What up? I'm going to show you how to make a Klipper box today. That's where I put a whole bunch of 3D printers using Klipper on a computer instead of using a Raspberry Pi. So instead of having one Raspberry Pi running mainsail connected to a printer, I have a computer running 10 mainsails simultaneously, and I connect 10 printers, or what is that? I'm bad at math. 8 printers to one device. Why this matters is because Raspberry Pis are incredibly expensive, whereas these computers are uber cheap. I think I scored this one for $25, and then I paid $20 to get a 500 gig SSD, right? I bought that from Amazon. So I'm going to show you how I do it today. What we have to do is open the computer up, install the new hard drive. Then you also have to, these old computers come with BIOS locks on them. So apparently when they were all office computers and they didn't want you like messing with them, so they put a BIOS lock on it. So now what we have to do is remove that, and then we have to go into the BIOS and remove the security settings that will allow us to install third-party software. Then we're going to install Unbuntu Linux, and then I'm going to install mainsail and a whole bunch of them on top of each other using kiauh, a program that makes installing Klipper very simple. All right, so these old computers are built like tanks. You can just like, you don't have to be very like gentle with them. So I know this might look foreign to all you little kids out there, but us old people, this is what computers used to look like on the inside. So the access we need is right here, and we need to lift this up, right? So usually this is a CD-ROM drive. Again, for all you young kids, this is a thing that plays disc, and we used to like watch movies and stuff on it. It's crazy. When you forget to rewind that, this place called Blockbuster would charge you. It's crazy. It's a joke. You can't rewind DVDs. All right, so you got to pop that off in order to get this up. Slide this over. Boom, we're up. If it's like connected, just pull out the connectors. I usually disconnect the DVD drive just because it's useless. I don't use it anymore. The part that we're looking for is right here. So this little blue jumper right here, we're going to pull this up and move it to the front 2 pins. And every one of these Dells is slightly different. The ThinkPads are slightly different. Sometimes the jumper is red and they're all in a line, and you pick it up and you move it to the right 2, but it's same concept, right? And so what this is going to do is it's going to short out the BIOS lock and reset it. And all we need to do now is plug this in. And then let's put, where's the power button at? Oh, this one's the power button. So we're going to turn it on. They usually make like beeping sounds or something. Just let it sit for a second. I'm just going to let it sit for a little bit, second more. Should happen. The last time I did this, it happened like instantaneous, but it had like an onboard speaker, so it was making sounds like beep beep. I think this one means it's ready to go since it's all lit like that, but just going to let it sit. Just got 10 more seconds. And then all we'll do is turn it off. All right, so now we're going to turn it off, and to turn it off, you just hold down the power button again. Oh, it actually powered off right then. Okay, cool. So it's just a little bit different than the other ones I did. All right, so now that we're powered off, just pull the power cord out. Now we want to, it won't boot if you leave that there, so you need to move it back. So we're going to take this jumper. Oh, I dropped it. And move it back. All right, so now we're gonna put that in. We need, where's that little cord that it came with? Oh, there it is. Again, for all you young kids, this is what we used to connect hard drives with. This is called a SATA cable. This is really taking me back, Sonny. This is how we used to build computers back in my day. Oh, Grandpa, you're being crazy. That looks like a kid's video game. That's a line from Back to the Future. If anybody doesn't know what that is, I don't know if we can be friends. It's like my all-time favorite movie, so. All right, so now let's just pop this out. I'm doing it one-handed. Again, this costs $20 from Amazon. They'll next day ship it. I don't like get paid for that, but if PNY wants to reach out and like send me a whole bunch of free hard drives, I will sell out so quickly. I mean, like y'all could be like, Rob's a sellout, and I'll be like, yeah, for sure. All right, so now we've got our SATA cable. We got to connect it to the power. You might be bouncing around. I'm doing this one-handed. Let's see if I can just like. All right, I'm going to set you down for a second. You're going to look at that. I know it's been longer than a second. All right, we're connected. Boom. New hard drive connected. Now you're going to take the other end of the SATA cable. You're going to plug it into a spare SATA port. I always go for the front blue one, just because blue is my favorite color. Some nerd's probably going to be like, that's not the right color to use in this proper connection of the SATA. And I'll be like, okay. All right, so I'm gonna plug that in. Let's see if I can get it. I think I didn't get it. I'm gonna set you down again. Look at all the computers I have. You just got to be careful. Sometimes these things can break. Oh, it just doesn't feel like it's in. That's what it is. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. All right, so now we're plugged in. The old guy just had a zip tie. Usually I like screw it in. After I do this video, I'll come back and put a screw in, like right there, and then screw it in somewhere on here. But for all namesake right now, I'm just gonna slap it in just so that we don't have to waste a whole bunch of time watching me bounce the camera around. I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, thanks, Rob. Appreciate that. Like, bro, I build 3D printers, not like a videotape. All right, so we got to put this thing back on. All right. And then I'm just going to see if I can't tuck that. I don't know, maybe I just did that wrong. Let's do this. All right. How about that? That's thinking without my rag right there. All right. All right. So now that we got that installed, looks good. Actually slid it into that little fine zip tie he had. I like to blow these computers out with my handy dandy duster. Again, X-Power, not being sponsored, but you want to shoot me some sponsorship, I will sell out in a heartbeat. I should have probably told you to turn down your microphone, but I don't really care. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for people going to be like, why? That thing was so loud. All right, so now we got to snap that back on. All right, boom. Good to go. All right, so that part of it is done. We're going to plug this in. We'll move our duster. I promise I won't blast your ears anymore. Got it plugged in. I always like to I have it plugged into its own monitor because it makes it a lot easier. I also use its own keyboard and mouse, and we'll be using a separate keyboard and mouse. We also have a whole bunch of commands that we have to run, but they're the same every time you do it, and I'll explain why we do these when we're doing them. For this part, I'm going to put you on my mount here. I got a fancy gimbal. Look, I even got a fancy camera. I just haven't hooked it up because I'm super lazy. Super lazy. All right, give me a second. I'm going to hook you up on my gimbal. Look at that. Technology. Oh, and if people complain about my video quality, I really don't care. So you can type it though. I really like the hate. If you want to hate on me, feel free. I really do love the hate. I love the hate. All right, let me see if I can't. All right, let's do that. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do is install Linux onto a bootable USB drive. So I have one that I just use, a micro SD. And this is just one of those USB drives you buy at Walmart. It's nothing special. And what we have to do is download download Linux from the internet, and then we have to install it onto this. We have to create a bootable drive using a program called Rufus. Rufus is free to download. You can just type it in on Google, RUFUS. I'll probably put some kind of link. I'm gonna put this in. All right. So as you can see, blank drive. I've already got the sites pulled up. So there's a lot of different variations of Linux. I always use Ubuntu. It's free. So we're just gonna type in Ubuntu in Google. And you go right here to download. Oh, actually, we should have. Oh, pulls it up. Download Ubuntu desktop. And Ubuntu desktop, I think it's this one right here. So if you look over, it says download. And that's the one we're going to download. So I'm going to download that now. It says Thank you for downloading. Please subscribe, but you don't have to subscribe to anything. So that's going to download. Yeah, and I'm going to pause while that downloads because it says it's going to take 3 minutes, and I'm not going to make you wait because I'm dope. All right, so we got this Ubuntu Linux downloaded, this image. Now we need Rufus. Again, we're just going to go to Google. You type in RUFUS, Rufus, the very first thing that pops up. Rufus, create bootable USB drives. Easy way. I've already downloaded that. This is what it looks like. I'll move it over. Okay, so now, oh, dang it, it's downloading an update. Yeah, let's go ahead and get the latest. So I'm going to pause. Okay, so we got the latest version of Rufus. All right, so now we want to make sure that we have our USB drive selected. I'm going to zoom in just a little. And so what you want to make sure, Rufus is nice because it really only lets you select the USB drive, but I have a 32 gig right there. We want to boot selection, disk, so I never changed that. Then I never changed that, never changed that. We're going to hit select. And look at that, hero me, Kawaii Master. Let's see, make sure I got nothing bad in here. Dang. Robert, what are you looking at? What's on your downloads? All right, so here's our Ubuntu. Dang, Grandma! Sorry, I just killed your ears again. Here's our Ubuntu that we just downloaded. You see how it says .iso? We're gonna just double click that. It's got it loaded up here. We're gonna hit start. I'm just gonna go with recommended. Let's see what happens. Sure. So this is normal. It's going to tell you all the data on this disk is about to be destroyed and created into an Ubuntu image. And you just say, yeah, cool, that's cool. Now it's gonna, it'll pop up with like screens like this. I don't know why it does that. I just kind of move this over. And I don't exit out of that screen, but I don't think it does anything if you do. So I'm not gonna let you sit. I'm gonna hit pause. I'll be back. Rufus, you done. Rufus is done. Just wrote your USB drive. Okay, so now we need to come back over to our computer that we're going to install Linux on, right? So that. And I have its own separate monitor hooked up. And I have its own separate keyboard. Now what we want to do is we want to boot into the BIOS. Let's see if I can get you a little bit nicer. And we need to disable 2 security protocols. I can't always remember what they are. So we're gonna like trial and error. If I try too many times, I'll hit pause, and then I'll figure them out, and then come back and let you know. All right, so all I gotta do, for these old Dells, I think the security key is F10 or 12. It's one of these. But sometimes, if you're unsure, just smash all of them. It doesn't have a software on it, so it's probably not gonna hurt it. And the computer's really old anyway, so if it doesn't work, I mean. All right, so it should pop on. And I think let's hit F10. I think it's F10. Oh, I didn't turn on the monitor. Let me plug in the monitor. Yeah, whoops. Let me do that again. Try one more time. F10. Oh, it's F12. It says F12. You see that? Boot options. Did it freeze? Let's see. Sometimes they freeze, like, these little computers don't like when they don't have the software on them. Let's see. I might hit pause. Oh, you know what it is? I think I know what it is. I think last time I had to unplug everything. Let's try that. Oh, so it moved past it. Yeah. So you have to, it's stupid. You have to unplug these the first time it boots because it, like, I don't know, it doesn't like USBs. So it's like trying to figure out what's going on here. So let's plug in the USB. I think it'll reboot itself this time, and then our USB should work. Man, last time that took me like hours to figure out. Okay, so it says reboot any machine, or yeah, man, that took me so long. Yeah, you have to unplug the USB. Okay, so now it works. That's so crazy. Oh, and look, it reads our, let me make sure that you can see that. Yeah, it sees our new SSD PNY. But what we want to do is go to BIOS setup. And this is the BIOS. So basically what a BIOS for non-computer people is, it's like an operating system that runs behind the operating system so that when you first boot a computer, the motherboard has a basic set of code of instructions that runs it so that it knows how to be a computer without having Windows or Linux or anything. And you can come in here and edit things in the BIOS. So like we can change where we boot from. We'll probably change this to, let's see, does my mouse not work? Try. My mouse should work, but for some reason my mouse doesn't want to work. Could be that the system doesn't have anything to load. That's crazy. Why doesn't my mouse work? Let me plug in this mouse, see if this one works. Alright, well, my mouse doesn't work, but we'll figure it out together. Let's see, one more time. try plugging it in on the front. Stupid mouse. All right. What do we want to do? TMP security. Performance, maintenance. I'm gonna hit pause here. All right, I think I got it figured out. So sometimes these Dells are a little bit different. I think this one's a little bit newer. And when I reset the BIOS, I think it reset all the security protocols. But the two I'm pretty sure that we want to make sure that are not enabled are TMP security and signed firmware, right? So if you're doing this, you should boot into the BIOS before you install Linux and make sure that these are not enabled. So if you see I'm on TMP security and it's not checked, and signed firmware update, it's not checked. So I think we're all good. We're just gonna exit. And now we're going to get our Linux boot drive that we just created using Rufus. And let me eject that from this computer. So we're going to eject. So here's our boot drive that we used to create a bootable Linux. Now we're going to install it on the Klipper computer. So again, I think what we have to do is let the computer boot with no USB plugged into it. Okay, so this sounds weird. Oh, it booted. Okay, never mind. Okay, so I'm gonna go plug this into the computer and then I'll reboot it and then we'll hit F12 again. So it's probably gonna initialize this. Let's see if I can just hit Control-Delete. Okay, so it's gonna say press any key, just hit enter and how's my I'm gonna hit that. Let's see if my keyboard works now. Hit F12 when it's booting up. Sorry, these old computers. It's not reading my keyboard now. I'm gonna hit pause. Okay, so sometimes these old Dells are really irritating and annoying, and the keyboard was not being recognized by it, right? So I had to keep switching it until it recognized it. I just switched it into a different USB port. So then I booted and I hit F12 and we're in that boot screen. I'm gonna redo it. So what you have to do here, whenever you first boot these machines up, these old machines do not like USB devices, like your keyboard or your mouse. They like the old school, peripheral plug-in round device. So what you have to do is we're just gonna turn this off. So I'll turn off the computer. You need to plug in, or you need to unplug all USB devices, right? So unplug this. That's the monitor. Unplug all USBs. I know this sounds crazy. Unplug it. Unplugged. Now we're gonna hit power on the machine. The machine's gonna boot. Let it get it all the way to when it says press any key to reboot. No device found, press any key to reboot. Okay, so now we're gonna plug in all the USBs. I'm doing that now. Okay, so if we look at our machine, I have plugged in the computer, the mouse, or not computer, but the keyboard, the mouse, and also our jump drive with the Linux image on it. All right, so hopefully the keyboard's recognized. If not, I'm gonna move the USB to one where it recognizes it until I find one. So let's hit any key. Oh, cool, it's recognized. So hit F12, just spam F12, F12. See, it's gonna say boot options, preparing one-time boot. Okay, so now here is our hard drive, but here's our USB storage. So we just wanna go down one, and we wanna boot from our USB. So this is the grub version, or the menu, the select. So we want to hit try or install Ubuntu, but you can do other things here. I've never really used the other three things, but I don't know, maybe other people have. You can leave it in the comments if I'm a goofball. I love the hate, love the hate. All right, so we're gonna hit try or install Ubuntu. And then this is just like installing Windows. If you've ever installed Windows on a new computer, it's gonna flash like this until it boots. It's gonna take a second to boot from the drive. If we look in the top left-hand corner, I'll get it in screen right there. There's a little flashy bar. So it's gonna take a second. Just be patient. When you're booting from a USB drive, it takes a little bit longer than booting from a hard drive, especially booting from an SSD. We're spoiled in this generation. The SSDs are awesome, especially M.2 SSDs. Okay, so I think it's about to do something. I just saw the, maybe I'm a liar. Just be patient. All right, I'll just fast forward this. As soon as I press pause, it like went into the next screen. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like. All right, look at that. Let's see if our mouse works. Our mouse works. Okay, so this is what it looks like, just like a normal desktop. It's kind of like very similar to Windows now. It's gonna pop up with this screen and it's gonna say try Ubuntu or install Ubuntu. If you just hit try, you can actually boot it from the USB drive and not actually install it on the computer. But if we install it, we're gonna install it on the SSD that we installed. So we're gonna leave it at English, but you choose whatever language you like here. And we're gonna hit install. I leave this here, but you change your keyboard layout to however you like. But when you figure out the one you like, you hit continue. Oh, and another thing, it always helps if you have it connected to the internet. And a hardline connection is always better than a Wi-Fi. It's just a lot easier for the install process. So I'm going to connect it to the internet right now. And the reason why you want to connect it to the internet is so that it can install updates and you don't have to, it just like gives you less to do later. So since I just connected it to the internet, this popped up. It says download updates while installing Ubuntu. And then I also click this, install third-party software for graphics, Wi-Fi, hardware, additional media formats. So basically like just other things. I don't know what exactly it installs, but I always do that. We're gonna hit normal installation and hit continue. Okay, so we want erase disk and install Ubuntu. You can do something else. So like if you want to keep Windows, I'm only going to run Linux on this computer, so I only care about Linux being on it. But if I wanted to keep Windows, I could I could have both softwares on it, and I'm pretty sure you do that here. But I'm not going to show you that. So today we're just going to use erase disk and install Ubuntu, and we're going to hit install now. It's going to say, oh no, you're going to install Linux on this. And we're like, yeah, dope. I'm in Texas, but that's always Chicago. It's the same as Chicago time zone. If I'm wrong about that, I don't care. But I always say Chicago. And we hit continue. It's going to ask you for your username, your computer's name. So I'm going to pick all that right now, and I'm not going to let you see that because I don't want you hacking my Ubuntu Linux box. All right. Okay, so I just click continue on that screen, and it's going to say, welcome to Ubuntu, and it's installing it. So we're just going to let it install. Just try to be patient on this and wait till it gets done with this, and we'll come back after it is done. All right, so the installation is complete. We're going to hit restart now. Now we'll find out if the security settings are enabled or not. So if the security settings in the BIOS, if the security settings in the BIOS are enabled, then it won't let it boot into a different software other than the Windows that it was intended to use in the first place. If they're not enabled, then it should just let us boot right into Linux or Ubuntu Linux. So we're going to just hit restart now. It's going to go through the screen and ask you to remove the jump drive. So it should here in a second. Yep, please remove the installation. So it wants us to pull out the USB, pull that out, and then hit enter on the keyboard. Okay, so after we hit enter, we should unplug all the USBs from the computer. And I know that sounds weird, but the first time it boots, I'm pretty sure you can't have any USBs. So hit enter, unplug the USBs. Computer should reboot. I left the network cable plugged in. Yeah, past that, so that's okay. That's what it should look like. All right, so now go and plug your keyboard and mouse back in. And this is Ubuntu. And the very first time you boot into it, it's going to ask you if you want to sign up for Pro. No, because Pro they want to charge you like money for, and this is free. All right, so just hit skip for now. Next. Help us improve. No, I don't want to send you system info because I'm secretive. Next. They ask like legal notices and stuff. I don't. Okay, so it does this first time you boot up. Just hit force quit. No big deal. All right, so this is very similar to what you're used to if you use Windows. If you use Apple, I have no idea because I don't use Apple products. So if you're an Apple user, just bear with me. Try to just follow exactly what I do, but don't ask me how to do it on your Apple laptop because I don't know. All right, so in Windows, we have the command prompt. And in Linux, we have what's called the terminal, but it's the same thing. We're going to do, I always like to do the so since we have it connected to the internet, it came up with this install, the software updaters. So we're just going to hit install now, and we're going to let that, we're going to let that do its thing. I'm going to type in my password, and then I'll get back when it's installed. Okay, so that update installed. I'm going to hit the restart now. This time I'm just going to leave the keyboard and mouse plugged in. It should boot in just fine. It's always just the first time it will like freeze on that first menu. And if it ever does freeze on this Dell menu, whenever you're using these old computers, if it freezes right here, then just hit the power button, turn it off, unplug all the USBs, turn it back on, and it should pass right back to that screen. That took me hours to figure out. It took me so long. I thought all the computers I bought were broken. Turns out, no, they just all have a hatred for USB ports because they were all built in like 2004. I think 2004 and 2000 all the way to 2016. All right, again, we don't want to do this. It always asks this. I don't know how to get rid of it. I can't remember. If somebody knows how to get rid of this, no, don't system. I think it gets rid of it if it passes the screen, but if it doesn't, it'll keep coming up. Let's hit wait. Oh, yes. Allow applications. Yeah, that's dope. You can track me. All right, done. Okay, cool. We got past that screen. So just hit wait on that one. Okay, so now that we have Linux installed on our machine, this is what it looks like. We need to run a set of commands, these commands, in the terminal. Okay, and I'm going to have these so you can just copy and paste it, or you just type it out. I always try to look it up on the internet and then copy and paste it, because the very first thing I like to do is install SSH. What the SSH allows us to do is allows us to connect to it wirelessly over the network, just like you do with a Pi when you install Klipper on it. I also like to prevent sleep, and then we need to install the net tools. And the reason why we do that is because it'll show us our IP address really, really easy. So it makes it to get really easy. This is our kiauh. So that's how we install kiauh. I think we're going to do that first. What we do, since we're connected to the internet, we're connected to the internet on this. If not, you can manually type these in. But here, I'm going to go to Firefox. And it works just like a web browser you're used to. It's not any different. Skip this step. We don't need that. Skip this step. Skip this step. Come on. Start browsing. Okay. And then also, if we come down here, let's see if you can see that. Yeah, to this little, it says show applications. we want to use the terminal. So you can type it in right here, or it's right here, but just type in terminal, and then let's just drag and drop this over here. And then we added it right here. So now we can just click on it, right? So let's go back to our web page. Now let's go to our terminal. So most people, whenever they install Klipper, this is the screen they're used to seeing whenever they SSH into their computer, and this is the screen like that they're used to. So this is no different for any Linux. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna install a whole bunch of different stuff, and I'll have the things in the description probably, so you can just like copy and paste it. But this first one, let's go to kiauh, K-I-A-U-H, and what kiauh is this makes Klipper very easy to install, and then it also makes Klipper easy to install multiples on the same device. And you could actually use this on a Raspberry Pi to install multiple Klippers or multiple mainsails on the same Raspberry Pi using the same process. Just install Linux on the Raspberry Pi instead of installing the direct image. Okay, so all we did here was we typed in kiauh in the search. We'll do it one more time. K-I-A-U-H, kiauh. The very first one that pops up, GitHub. We're in it. We're going to scroll down. This will give you the exact commands to copy and paste and install it on your machine. Okay, so for all you young kids, this is how us old timers used to install programs, except like it's a little bit different. But so here we're just going to copy Control-C. Your hotkeys still work. We're going to go up to the terminal, and then we're going to hit Control-V. Or actually, you just hit right-click and paste. And looks like it copied too much. I think we just want it to say sudo. Yeah. Okay, so you just want it to say sudo apt-get update, sudo apt-get install, and then we type in the super secret password, and it's going to go through this install process. Make sure you're connected to the internet, otherwise this won't install. Okay, so now you do step 2. We're going to install this. Control-C, just copy, right-click, paste, enter. Oh. I have to, I forgot the very first thing that we need to do, install git. Is that not? Okay. Let's try this. Sudo apt-get, Control-C. Let's Control-A. Let's just type it in. Sudo apt install git. Okay. Yes. Okay, so we had to install git first. I'm gonna make a whole bunch of these videos. I always have to remember what to do. I thought give me a second. Okay, so now let's just copy and paste this. Since we already copied and pasted it once, if you just hit the up arrow, it'll come back up. Now let's hit that. Okay, so now it did it. Cool. That's one cool thing about Linux is if it can't do something, it tells you why it can't do it. So if we scroll back up, when we tried to run step 2 before, it said command get not found, but can be installed with sudo app install get. So then I just went right here and I typed in sudo app install get, just like it said right here, and it installed it. And then I ran step 2 and it installed. Okay, so next we're going to run, so now Kiauh is installed. Control C, paste. We're gonna run the application by this command. And boom, there's Kiauh. You have installed it. Okay, so this is the intro screen that you're gonna see whenever you come in. And what we're gonna do now, you have to do it in steps. So we're going to install the Klipper repo, Moonraker, and then we're gonna install mainsail. You can also install Fluid, or it's either mainsail or Fluid. I've never used Fluid. Some people might like it more. I've never used it. So if you like it more, tell me why. You can also install Klipper screens for multiple devices in here. Octo everywhere. That's so if you want to like view your devices from a USB outside of your network, like you're at home but you want to watch your printers at your shop, you can do that from right there. So Kiauh makes installing Klipper really easy. You have these list of commands on the left hand side here. Let's say install, update, remove, advance, backup. So I'm going to show you how to install. I'm going to install 10 mainsails, so I'll be able to hook up 10 different 3D printers to this. Then I'm going to show you how to hook up a printer and how to access it. So let's install the mainsails now. You just hit 1. Make sure your numlock's on. Hit 1, enter. It's going to say firmware and API. So we need to hit 1 first. And it says select Python. It recommends you to use Python 3.x. But for whatever reason, you might have a reason to use Python 2.7. I doubt you do, but maybe like programmers like, nah, son, that Python's the one. But I always just go with what's recommended. So we hit 1, hit enter. Now it's going to ask number of Klipper instances that you want to set up. So this relates to how many printers do we want to set up on this computer. And we're going to hit 10. Okay, so we have 10 USB onboard ports on this Dell. So I'm going to set it up to be able to run 10 printers. It's going to ask, do you want to assign custom names? I always say no here because we can do custom names later. If you already have custom names, you have to like type them out, I think. So I just hit no. And here it goes. It's going to install 10 different Klippers. So let it go through this process. Again, you could do this on any device that runs Linux. Believe it or not, Android devices run on top of a Linux kernel, and you can install a working operating version of Linux that will run simultaneously with your Android device. And what that means is my TV in the background, it has Google on it, and I'm pretty sure I can hack it and run a 3D printer from my TV and still watch TV while I'm doing it. And that's probably going to be my next video. Robert destroys his Google TV and asks fans, hopefully graciously give him money to buy a new one. And then destroy that one too. All in the name of glory. I bet I get it to run a 3D printer. So we're just waiting for it to install. It's a pretty quick process actually after it gets. So there it goes. It does a whole, it's fun to watch. All right, I'm going to let it go through its process, and I'll be back. Okay, so now you'll see all the Klipper services started. One thing to note, because we did 10, 10 actually registers before 1. So it goes 1 through 9, and then it puts 10. So if we had gone over 10, it would be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's important to note because later we're going to need to know the file locations for all of these servers whenever we are, all these Klippers. So whenever we're setting it up, it's important to note that 10 comes before 1. And what that technically means is that this is actually 1 and this is 2, even though it looks like that. Okay, so here it's going to say add user to groups, add user HWB. I'm not exactly sure what this means, but I always hit yes here. Okay, so next, we just installed Klipper. Now we want to install Moonraker. It says perform action. We hit 2. It's going to ask, do you want to install Moonraker up to all 10 printers? And you just hit enter, install. It's going to ask again. You hit Y. And then it's going to go through this whole process again. This one's actually pretty quick. I like this part. It's like do 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 do. It looks cool. Make sure you have it connected to the internet while you're doing this too. I'm pretty sure it needs to be connected to the internet. And if not, somebody tell me how not to. All right, we just installed Moonraker. So now we need to choose between our web interfaces, either Mainsail or Fluid.